I've got to tell you something, and I need you to hear me loud and clear. What just happened in Cleveland is not ordinary. It's not one of those small updates you scroll past on the ticker at the bottom of your screen, and it's definitely not one of those coach speak, throwaway lines you hear in a press conference. No, what just went down felt like the ground itself shook beneath the entire franchise. It felt like the tectonic plates of the NFL shifted, and it happened in the blink of an eye. The man at the center of it wasn't some anonymous source. It wasn't a tweet from a beat reporter. It wasn't a slip of the tongue from a coordinator. No, this came straight from the heart of the Browns, from the one man who embodies the toughness, the grit, and the sheer defiance of this franchise. Myles Garrett. He snapped. His voice broke through the noise, raw and unfiltered, and he said what everyone had been whispering, what the boldest of Browns fans had been daring to hope but didn't know if they could trust yet. He confirmed it. Shedeur Sanders is QB1. Stop and let that sink in. Not someday. Not in the distant future. Not after months of sitting, learning, and holding a clipboard. Right now, heading into week 2. And not against a random out-of-division opponent with a soft defense, but against one of the most feared units in the entire league. The Baltimore Ravens. Now, let me tell you why this hit me like a lightning bolt. For years, decades even, Cleveland has been haunted by one single storyline: quarterback chaos. It's the curse that never seemed to lift. From high draft picks who never panned out, to veterans who never fit, to experiments that crumbled under pressure, Browns fans have lived through a revolving door under center. Every season began with hope and ended with disappointment. Every new name was sold as the answer, and every answer turned into another painful question. And then this. In one fiery moment, Myles Garrett didn't just speak for himself. He spoke for the locker room. He spoke for the fans. He spoke for an entire city aching for stability, for belief, for a quarterback they can finally ride with through the storms. And in that instant, the message was crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders isn't a prospect. He isn't a placeholder. He isn't a backup waiting for his chance. He is the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Now, think about the magnitude of this timing. This isn't preseason. This isn't a scrimmage. This isn't a Week 17, throw the rookie in and see what he can do kind of move. This is Week 2, against Baltimore, against a defense that has made a living out of confusing, crushing, and breaking young quarterbacks. Against a team that thrives on pressure, on disguise, on unleashing blitzes that come faster than a heartbeat. And yet Cleveland is planting their future right there in the fire. That's not reckless. That's not desperate. That's a statement. Because let's be honest, when Garrett stamps his approval, it's different. This isn't just another player giving his 2 cents. This is the captain, the anchor, the man who has carried this team's spirit through every storm. He's not just speaking as a defensive end, he's speaking as the embodiment of Cleveland's identity. And here's the thing, he's seen quarterbacks come and go. He's seen hype flare up and burn out. He's watched teammates crumble under expectations. For him to stand tall and say, Shedeur is the guy, that's not casual. That's conviction. Now let's talk about Shedeur. This isn't just any rookie. This is a kid who has been groomed for the spotlight since he could walk. He's not rattled by pressure, he's raised in it. Son of Shedeur Sanders. Surrounded by greatness his entire life. Football wasn't just something he picked up, it was stitched into his DNA. Every camera flash, every headline, every ounce of scrutiny, he's been living with it long before he stepped onto an NFL field. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. Because while most rookies step into a Week 2, start with fear in their eyes, Shedeur steps in with something different. Composure, poise, a belief that this is exactly where he's supposed to be. And that's what Cleveland sees. That's what Garrett sees. That's why this entire franchise has turned the page, right here, right now. But don't mistake confidence for ease. The Baltimore Ravens aren't just another opponent, they're the test. They're the crucible. They're the kind of defense that sniffs out weakness like blood in the water. They disguise their coverages, bait you into mistakes, and when you flinch, they pounce. Rookies don't survive the Ravens. They get swallowed by them. And that's what makes this such a defining moment. Because if Shedeur can even stand tall in this game, if he can even show flashes of the talent that made him so highly anticipated, the conversation about Cleveland isn't just going to change, it's going to explode. This isn't just about a quarterback starting. It's about a franchise daring to believe again. It's about a defense led by Myles Garrett saying, we're all in on this guy. It's about a city that has lived through heartbreak finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm telling you right now, this feels different. It feels like one of those moments you'll look back on years from now and say, that was the turning point. Not when the Browns finally drafted a quarterback. Not when the coach made the announcement. But when the leader of the team, the warrior who has carried them through every storm, stood up and said, he's the one. Myles Garrett snapped. He let it out. He confirmed it. Shedeur Sanders is QB1. And from this day forward, nothing about Cleveland football will ever be the same. Let me take you deeper into this story because to really understand the weight of what's happening in Cleveland right now, you've got to rewind the clock. You've got to look at where this franchise has been, the scars they carry, the ghosts that haunt them, and why this moment with Shedeur Sanders is so much bigger than one rookie starting in Week 2. For decades, the Cleveland Browns have been defined not by dominance, not by stability, but by chaos under center. Quarterback after quarterback, draft pick after draft pick, hope flaring up like a match and burning out before it ever had a chance to light the way. The names are endless, the disappointments unforgettable. Fans remember them like bad dreams, the first-rounders who never became stars, the veterans who came in as saviors and left as scapegoats, the experiments that lasted barely a season before collapsing. Cleveland hasn't just struggled to find a quarterback, they've lived in a storm of uncertainty, a revolving door that left fans numb and hopeless. And yet somehow, out of all that chaos, here comes Shedeur Sanders. Now, when you hear that name, you don't just hear a player, you hear a legacy. You hear the son of Deion Sanders, a man whose very presence changed football. From the moment Shedeur picked up a ball, the spotlight was already there. Expectations weren't just high, they were astronomical. And the thing is, he didn't run from it. He embraced it. Back in college, Shedeur didn't just play quarterback. He commanded it. At Jackson State and then Colorado, he didn't fold under the pressure of being primetime son. Instead, he carved his own identity. He showcased not just arm talent, but something rarer: poise, precision, the ability to dissect defenses like a surgeon when others his age were still panicking in the pocket. He showed leadership, resilience, and a knack for making the big throws when the lights were brightest. And here's the kicker, it's not just hype. Shedeur came into the NFL, and from the moment he set foot in that Browns locker room, people noticed. Teammates saw the way he carried himself. Coaches saw how fast he picked up the playbook. Even the veterans, guys who've been around for years, looked at him and thought, this kid is different. And now, we're not just talking about potential. We're talking about production. In practice, he's been sharp. He's been decisive. The ball comes out of his hand fast, crisp, accurate. He's building chemistry with receivers like Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, threading passes into tight windows, showing timing and touch you don't expect from someone this new to the league. And perhaps more important than the stats, he's earned the respect of the locker room. When you hear linemen say they'll block harder for him, when you see veterans dapping him up after a drive, that's when you know he's not just the rookie quarterback. He's their quarterback. And when you take all of that and place it against the backdrop of Cleveland's haunted history at the position, you realize just how seismic this moment is. The Browns aren't just plugging in a rookie to see what happens. They're breaking a curse. They're rewriting their identity. Now let's circle back to Myles Garrett for a second. This is a man who has carried this team through chaos, who has seen the pain in the eyes of fans, who has felt the weight of wasted seasons. For him to snap, to let his emotions pour out, and to confirm with his whole chest that Shedeur Sanders is QB1, that's not small talk. That's a declaration of war. That's a leader putting his reputation on the line, saying, I believe in this kid. And so should you. And you better believe that resonates. Because in football, confidence is contagious. When the leader of the defense believes, when the locker room rallies, when the fans feel that shift in the air, suddenly the impossible starts to look possible. Suddenly, a rookie walking into a Week 2 showdown with the Baltimore Ravens doesn't look like a gamble. It looks like destiny. But here's what makes this even more fascinating. Shedeur is already proving himself where it matters most. In his preseason reps, he didn't play scared. He didn't check down to avoid mistakes. He pushed the ball downfield. He tested tight coverages. He showed the ability to stand tall in the pocket with pressure crashing around him, eyes scanning, shoulders square, delivering strikes when most rookies would be bailing out. And it wasn't just mechanics, it was confidence. He carried himself like someone who knew he belonged. Not cocky, not arrogant, just calm, poised, as if to say, I've been here before. And in a way, he has. Because while the NFL is new, the pressure isn't. The spotlight isn't. He's been under it his entire life, and instead of being crushed by it, he's been hardened by it. Now let's not ignore reality. The Ravens are going to test him in ways he's never been tested before. They're going to throw exotic blitzes at him. They're going to shift coverages after the snap. They're going to disguise looks and bait him into traps. This isn't college anymore. This is grown man football. And Baltimore specializes in exposing every crack in a rookie's armor. But here's the thing. Even if he stumbles, even if he throws picks, even if he gets sacked, this isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing he belongs. It's about flashes of greatness, those throws that make even the Ravens shake their heads and say, damn, that kid's for real. And if he gives Cleveland even a taste of that, the entire narrative of this franchise changes overnight. Think about it. For years, the Browns have been searching for the guy. And in 1 week, 1 moment, 1 confirmation from their captain, they've planted their flag and said, we've found him. That's why Myles Garrett's words hit like a thunderclap. That's why fans across the country felt chills when they heard it. Because this isn't just about a rookie getting his shot. It's about a franchise finally daring to believe again. And in Shedeur Sanders, they're not just believing in a quarterback. They're believing in a future. There are moments in sports when the game stops being just about X's and O's, schemes and matchups, stats and film. There are moments when it becomes something bigger, something cultural, something that redefines not only a team, but an entire city. That's exactly where Cleveland stands right now. And at the center of it all, 2 men. One, a rookie quarterback stepping into the NFL fire earlier than anyone expected. The other, a defensive titan who has carried this franchise's soul for years. Shedeur Sanders, Myles Garrett. This is the story of how their paths collide to create a moment that could change everything. Picture this, the Browns' locker room in the days leading up to week 2. The energy is electric, but it's heavy too. Everyone knows what's at stake. This isn't just a game against Baltimore. This is a statement game. The Ravens are notorious for testing quarterbacks, especially young ones. They live to crush dreams, to force rookies into panic, to expose every flaw. And here, Cleveland isn't hiding Shedeur Sanders from that fire. They're throwing him straight into it. And instead of trembling, Shedeur stands tall. Because that's who he is. Calm, composed, poised. Teammates watch him and see something different. He doesn't fidget with his helmet. He doesn't let nerves creep into his voice. He doesn't shrink under the questions. He stands in front of the cameras, in front of the men he now leads, and he carries himself like a quarterback who belongs. Like a man who has been preparing for this very moment his entire life. But here's the part that gives this story its weight. He's not alone. Standing beside him, figuratively and literally, is Myles Garrett. Garrett isn't just a great player, he's the soul of this team. He's seen the failures, the letdowns, the heartbreaks. He's watched quarterbacks walk through that locker room door full of promise, only to walk back out as another failed chapter in Cleveland's cursed history. And yet, with Shedeur, Garrett feels something different. He feels belief. When he snapped and confirmed to the world that Shedeur Sanders is QB1, it wasn't just a soundbite. It was a declaration of faith. It was a captain saying to his team, follow this man. It was a defensive superstar putting his full weight behind a rookie quarterback and saying, he's our guy. And in the NFL, that matters more than people realize. Because culture wins games. Belief fuels comebacks. Confidence spreads like wildfire. When the leader of the defense believes, the offense believes. When the veterans see Garrett standing by Shedeur, they buy in. When the fans hear it, they stop doubting and start hoping. This is how you change a franchise. Not with stats on paper, but with conviction in the locker room. Now, let's be real about the challenge. The Ravens are not going to make this easy. Their defense thrives on chaos. They'll disguise coverages until the very last second. They'll send blitzes from angles Shedeur has never seen before. They'll test his patience, his decision-making, his toughness. And when he gets hit, and he will get hit, they'll be waiting to see if he gets back up. But here's what separates Shedeur. He's not just playing against Baltimore. He's playing for Cleveland. Every pass he throws, every read he makes, every hit he takes, he's carrying the hopes of a city that has been starved for stability under center. He's carrying the trust of Myles Garrett, the respect of his teammates, the belief of his coaches. And that kind of weight. For some, it's crushing. For Shedeur, it's fuel. Because this is what he's been groomed for. From Jackson State to Colorado, he proved he could rise under pressure. He didn't just put up numbers, he made statements. He showed the ability to handle chaos, to read defenses, to make the big throws when the lights were brightest. And now, He's about to prove it on the biggest stage yet. And let me say this, even if the stat sheet isn't perfect, even if he throws an interception, even if Baltimore rattles him at times, this game is about more than numbers. It's about presence. It's about Shedeur walking into the fire and not flinching. It's about showing the NFL that the Browns aren't just experimenting, they're committing. And when you have Myles Garrett on your side, that commitment becomes unshakable. Let's talk about Garrett for a moment. This is a man who has been through hell with this franchise. He's seen the worst of the quarterback carousel, the wasted seasons, the false starts. He's heard the boos, felt the frustration, carried the burden of being the only star on a team that couldn't get it together. And yet he stayed. He fought. He became the cornerstone, the rock. And now, he sees something he's never truly had before, a quarterback he believes in. That's why his words hit so hard. That's why when he confirmed Shedeur as QB1, it wasn't just a player speaking, it was the soul of the franchise opening up and saying, finally we found him. Imagine being Shedeur in that moment. A rookie, carrying enormous pressure, and then the face of the team, the man who defines Cleveland football, stands beside you, publicly declaring that you're the guy. That's not just support. That's empowerment. That's a passing of the torch, a signal that this isn't just Shedeur's journey, it's Cleveland's journey. So when Shedeur Sanders walks out onto that field against Baltimore, remember this, it's not just one rookie quarterback taking his first big test. It's the beginning of a cultural shift. It's the Browns daring to believe again. It's Myles Garrett and Shedeur Sanders standing shoulder to shoulder, one as the voice of the defense, the other as the future of the offense, together reshaping the identity of a team that has been searching for this moment for decades. The Ravens will come hard. The lights will be bright. The pressure will be immense. But for the first time in a long time, Cleveland won't be defined by fear. They'll be defined by belief. Because Myles Garrett snapped, the locker room rallied, and Shedeur Sanders stepped into the fire as QB1. And from this moment on, the Cleveland Browns will never be the same. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you love dramatic NFL stories like this one. The Browns just changed their future, and you are here to see it.